Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. And today, this is going to be an absolutely amazing episode. And I just want to welcome Mr. Bruno Goffin. How are you, Bruno?
I'm fine. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to have a chance to share those good stories with you. Thank you.
Yeah, so for people who may not know Bruno, but they will know Bruno by the end of this episode, it's nearly... Good grief! It's nearly 30 years ago. I think we were in the same company, isn't it?
Yep.
So next year it'll be 30 years when I think you joined a small conglomerate called GE.
Yes. That time was pretty
small juggernaut.
Wall Street. It was only the number one on Wall Street.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the most valuable company in the world at the time. So yeah, so Bruno and myself worked for a company, which we'll come on to in a second. But one of the things that I think I was really pleased to do was to reconnect with Bruno recently, and we'll get onto this in more detail. But he's written an absolutely amazing book, and he's catalogued for the world, I suppose. You know, his experiences, personal experiences, and a lot of case studies on people's experience in what are called being courageous. I think the interesting thing is that I find with your introduction that I think your son writes. Yeah, your son wrote your introduction into your book.
Yep.
And obviously he's probably in his 30s now. It's all the dimensions of leadership and the things that people have to deal with. And I think the interesting thing you start off the book with is about, people have a perception about the Gen Z and the millennials and things like that. And I think you're spot on. I've got two sons, Ben and James, 21 and 19. So they're kind of, I don't know, what are they called? Gen X, Gen
They
Z.
should read the book.
Well, yeah, no, I'm going to have to buy a copy of the book as well. But I suppose first question is, where are you joining us from today? Whereabouts are you in the world?
I'm on the French Riviera because I deserve it. After 50 years of tough work, and I have a residence in Belgium, in Brussels, because my kids are there, and it's my country of origin, even if I'm half Italian. But we have a second residence in next to Cannes, in the south of France, and where the climate is great. I don't spend all my time, but I spend much time playing golf, and here it's paradise for golf, from the number of golf, the quality of golf, and the climate. So this is where I'm now in my office.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So, I suppose for people that don't know you, is, I suppose, you've obviously been in a. My observation, it's quite interesting because when I was reading your book, which I'll just show the book, when I was reading this book, which is definitely something you should go and buy.
Successfully religious. Yes.
That I didn't realize, actually. I suppose we jump into the end, but we jump into kind of halfway through, but then to come back to the beginning. I didn't realize that your journey, and obviously the G&T sessions we talk about growth, which in the roles that you've been having across your career has been about driving growth of organizations. That actually you've spent a period of time in you could say in corporates, large enterprises, and then you kind of said, I've had enough of this. I'm going to change my direction. I'm going to between family and business, and you're going to go back and reconnect.
Which is courageous, yes. Also.
Which is courageous, yeah. I agree. And I'll be honest with you, till I read that part of your story, I didn't realize that that's the journey you'd taken. And today's episode is not about me, but I'll explain a little bit about what it triggered in my journey as well, about what's happened with me over the last 15, 20 years as well. But yeah, I suppose to start it off, could you just explain a little bit of history for the audience to understand your kind of journey and your steps, and we can step into some of the topics then. And also, I suppose, what was the trigger for you writing your book? Because obviously there was probably things that happened, or you saw things that were happening that you thought was reason to write down these case studies and share this knowledge.
Okay. So just so I'll start with a quick recap of what I've done, so people can appreciate and understand why I read book and the content. Um, I think childhood is very important for everyone. The impact of childhood on your personality, on your G, as you call it, your growth and all that is fundamental. And I was born in Belgium in a village where it's difficult to find a village in the world, except maybe in the mountains somewhere, which is smaller than this village. It was 180 inhabitants, the French border. Everybody knew everyone. They would not. The official language would be French, but nobody was speaking French at that time. They were speaking the French dialect. Nobody ever had gone to university in this village. And at 17, I told my mom, "Mom, look, I was pretty good at school, even without working too much. I could bring good results." And so I told my mom, "I'm going to go to university." And my mom said, "Hey, Bruno, look, for 17 years we have been feeding you. Now it's time to you go, you work, and you bring some money home. Especially because you have a brother also who is not studying and all that, and he's not gifted like you seem to be. So you go and work." I say, "Mom, here's the deal. I take care of myself. Financially, I won't ask you for one Belgian franc at the time anymore. And I go to university and I'm going to study and work." And so this is what I did. But when I was a child, my father was a worker in the steel industry, and he was doing one of the toughest jobs that you could find in the steel industry. You can imagine, a big piece of metal comes out of the making, and there are a lot of stuff around which needs to be eliminated. And you see those guys on the street with those. Okay, he was doing that, but on metal. Okay, and at that time, there was a guy with a chronometer and he was paid by piece. So he would come back home and he was completely, exploited, aggressive, and I was a young child, and I was listening to him complaining, and without mentioning anything, but in my head I was thinking, never somebody is going to treat me like that in my life. And that's, this is, to me, this is a first key message for young people, young talent. Manage your own destiny, or somebody else will. In this case, my mom would have said, you go to work and like your dad or what. And so I refused that. And so I studied like this. Then at university, when I ended up at 21, because I was born in December, I was 1 year ahead, and at 21 I had my degree in economics, but I had learned so much, so much, because working, I studied in a restaurant in the village because it was a touristic place, so a new restaurant had opened. Let's make it a long story short. I started making the dishes. Then at the bar, then they put me in the waiting as a waiter. The owner so quickly that after a few months he saw that the tables I was managing were bringing more revenue than the other guys who were from the hospitality management schools. They were technically very prepared, but they couldn't sell, and I was paid in as percentage on the turnover. So of course I was selling. So he said,
that sales instinct was at an early age. Yeah.
Yeah. So he said, you handle the whole tables. And weekends we are making 100 guests for every service. And so at 18, I was there. I was managing, people who technically were more competent than me. I was managing clients. So I'd learned so much at 21. On top, at university, I was elected to manage one bar, the bar at university, that I manage. We put back profit and all that. And then when you manage a bar at university, you have many friends, of course, okay, especially in Belgium, beer and all that. And so I was elected at the second bar, where I learned so much also. And and then elected to as a representative of students at university, at the faculty at university. And so when at 21 I had my degree, and I started my interview at Procter and Gamble. I told them, don't look for academic top academic records. If you look for that, don't waste your time. But if you want someone in sales who has already learned a bit, and three interviews, and they hired me. And so I started at Procter, which was it's tough. At Procter, you need to deliver. It's not. And at 33, after over every 18 months, I think I got on average I was promoted. And then they sent me to the US because US was La Mecca at the time. You had to learn everything from Cincinnati, Ohio, which was true. I learned a lot professionally. And I came back. And at 33, I ended up being the commercial director of the Belgian branch. I was the youngest in Europe to be at that level. And there I had to transform the entire go-to-market, to change the entire go-to-market strategy, go-to-customer strategy, courageously, because I had all the barons who had been my bosses who were, against those moves. And okay, so this was also a proof of courage. And so then I did well, and they sent me to Italy as a commercial director for the Italian operations of Procter. But things were too slow because in Italy, the change is extremely difficult. People are reluctant to change, and everything is so slow. What you realize in 1 year, 1.5 years in Belgium, you need 10 years in Italy to change. I didn't have that patience. So, and I got a phone call from a headhunter for a GE position. So I went to some interviews, and I got the job as for the executive vice president commercial operations Europe of the GE Lighting division. This is where we met. Okay, great transformation. I can come back on that when if you want a bit later, explain a bit more what the challenge was and all that. But so I had to transform the whole thing. The big challenge at the time was that GE, let's say it now, GE had a monopoly on lighting in the US. General Electric, as we all know, was created. They'd been created by Thomas Edison, light bulb, and GE was number one, super number one in the US. Cash cow and no real competition. In Europe was different. In Europe was a cartel. It was Siemens Osram in Germany. This one was official, but it was a cartel. Siemens Osram Germany and that part of Europe, and Philips France and the west part of Europe. And so GE was not present in Europe. But then they had the bad idea of trying to complicate the life of Jack Welch, the CEO of GE at the time. They came to the US and they started to try to deal with Walmart. With Welch, it was like a punch on his nose. And so Jack said the best way to attack is to defend. So guys, overnight we need a presence in Europe, and we need to take some of their big customers so they feel the pain. And so Jack bought everything he could buy in Europe. GE was full of cash, so they could buy everything they wanted. Except the problem was that there was nothing to buy except crap. No, in the UK, Thorn was a good acquisition, but the rest, Tungsram in Hungary, after the Berlin Wall, it was a communist managed company. So completely opposite of the GE way of leading, of managing. And so he bought crap. And then what Jack did, as with Jack Welch, he said, we need to make it one GE, okay, but not within the year. Yesterday, it should have happened yesterday. So he flew a full charter of big, fantastic specialist in R&D, manufacturing, in logistics, finance of lighting. All Americans arrived. But Jack said, maybe we need also a local guy who speaks a bit the local languages, knows the cultures and everything. And it ended up to me. Okay, so I took the job. Big challenge to make it one GE, and really a tough challenge. And so I did that for several years. And when the mission was over, I reprioritize on private life because my wife, my kids. At the time of GE, I was taking 5 to 6 flights a week. I would wake up middle of the night to go to the bathroom and end up against the wardrobe, saying, "But no." But it was the night before, where you fly so much, you travel so much that you don't know where you are. You wake up in the morning, you have no idea where you are. And so I went through all that, and I decided to reprioritize on my family, which was courageous, as we said a bit earlier. Um, I was making very, very, very good money, of course, big stock options package for retention, and I have to renounce to okay. So I decided to do that. Then for the next 25 years, I've been called several times for turning around companies in big, 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 sometimes in deep shit. Okay, let's say it like that. Turning around as the leader of the turnaround team or part of the turnaround team. Then we can come back on some of those stories if you want. So also very courageous, some were extremely courageous, environments where I had to be at least extremely courageous. And so I did that, and also in parallel, I became a trainer, certified trainer on a fantastic model on emotional intelligence, which is an American model that NASA has been using for many, many years to manage interaction, communication, and stress management of the astronauts. It's called process communication model. It's a great, 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 great model. It's based on personality profiling, but it goes really far on knowing yourself and managing your own stress or the stress, interacting with people under stress and all that. Very useful. So that's a bit what I did. And now, to conclude on all this, now I feel like I've been lucky to work on especially those those two great companies like Procter and GE. And I feel now at 70 years old, I feel like I have to give up something. Okay. And I decided to embark into this mentoring program for young talent because after research I realized that there was a real need, and so I decided to embark in this program that I started. And the program started with the book that you just showed, which is Successful Young Leaders Are Courageous. So it's a 50 years in 45 years in a 3, 4, 5 minutes summary. Okay.
No, thanks for that.
Yes.
I think that. I mean, I think it's really. Thank you for explaining that, because I think, I mean, obviously you go into more detail in the book, but for you, it's an absolute honor to have you on the show, because I mean, when I was a young leader, yeah, I was in your meetings as one of your you were my business sponsor effectively. I was in technology. I was working for the CIO, and to see you in action to harmonize and lead and manage all the characters that we had around those long trestle tables in head office in London was an absolute masterclass. So it's fascinating to now spend time with you, because I think what I realized from my GE experience was you don't realize, I think when you're in a company, you don't realize how much osmosis, how much you're actually absorbing from the peer group that you're working with, because the peer group is keeping you to such a high level. And I know that probably you have some views on, the kind of who were the high potentials, who were the kind of maybe not the high potentials in your transformation of the GE sales function. But I to this day, many decades later, I'm proud to have worked there, and it was completely kind of unplanned that I joined GE. But the experience has taken me through into my career, in a different stage. And what I found incredible was that for you to admit that, because I felt the same as well when I was at GE, that Jack Welch, when he was the CEO, was such an inspirational guy, an inspirational leader.
Best I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I mean,
best I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, even in the book, and I remember you can talk about this, but I mean, Chuck Piper was the CEO when I was there, and obviously he hired you, right? we ran workouts, me and my team with Mark Jameson, the CFO. Remember Mark,
Yes.
right? And Chuck. And literally, we would go into a meeting in Hammersmith, in the GE course in Hammersmith, and we wouldn't leave that room until we'd fixed the problem. We'd do a GE workout session, but talk about
Yes.
executive leadership and sponsorship. Right? Okay, you've got the CEO there, you've got the CFO there. You go and find people and get them in the room, and they're like, okay, what are we going to do to fix this problem tomorrow? I mean, when I think about that now, if you think about organizations, a lot of organizations, I know, have taken that workout principle, but when we're in the middle of that, and I know you ran a number of things like that as well. It was just like it's okay. We're doing a workout tomorrow. Let's plan it and then just do it. But when you go into other organizations, what I appreciated was how far ahead we were from an organization point of view about the things we would get done. It was quite incredible. So it's it's really interesting. And as we touched on before, as I left and joined Tesco ultimately later in my career, which was I suppose a buyer of Procter and Gamble products, right? And and obviously the power dynamic between a retailer and a manufacturer, as you know from your stories from B&G, is very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The interesting was that Crotonville, where G, I think you went on to EDLC, the Global Training Center in New York. Yeah. When I went to Tesco, they have their kind of leadership courses and leadership training, and I go, this looks like GE Crotonville training. He says, oh yeah, we had all the GE Crotonville guys visit us, and they've basically designed the whole leadership course within Tesco. So I thought, that's wow. It's like the stuff that I'd been through, and you'd been through when you were at GE. So it's I think it's really interesting. And you talk about VUCA, yeah. You talk about the kind of U.S. Marine, the Navy SEAL stuff about VUCA. We're living in this VUCA world, this this uncertain world with lots of different things that are happening. That's where I think the stuff that you've written about and leadership is even more important because it's an essential skill, and unfortunately, the thing about is you've got to grab the nettle. You've got to grab the nettle to actually take the risk and not try and be a wallflower. So that's the thing I find. I really enjoyed reading your book because I think there's so many great stories there about where you had to you either personally grabbed the nettle and took the risk, or you explained stories of other people that you recognise and saw them grab the nettle as well.
Yeah, but also, you probably read in the book the story where I took risk even with Jack Welch, which was okay because the story is that I joined in April of the year, and when I
April
joined Jack,
95, yeah,
95, and then when I joined. Uh, I had a call from Jack, and he said, "Bruno, I'm going to come in June for the business reviews in Europe." Okay, and because every year Jack Welch was coming for the business reviews in Europe, also because he was in love, he was crazy about Roland Garros tennis in France, which was in June, and so he would couple the week Roland Garros with the business review, and so there I am after a few months with the company. And the big challenge was that I had to integrate the four acquisitions, make it one GE from a product line point of view, from a commercial policy point of view, so it was already a big stake. And on top, I had to very quickly show our teeth to competition and make sure I would take one key account in every key country. I didn't have the talent to do that. So I was on the front line myself because the acquisitions I mentioned earlier were crap. So the talent also was, let me say, crap. Okay. So to go and deal with Metro or Carrefour or Rexel electrical wholesaler in France or what, or an OEM like or automotive B2B like Valeo, you need to have the you need to have the
You need
profile
to have,
and the
to have
seniority.
balls of steel. Balls of steel.
Yeah. And so I had to do that. But as every people who has been in sales knows, the, the big issue is that you need to have access to the decision makers. And if you don't have access there, you waste a lot of time, from they want you to meet the buyer, and then you need to, it could take years. And it was not on the agenda of Jack. Patience has never been on his agenda. And so, nor on mine, because I'm not a patient guy. And so there I am. And Jack was fabulous in those business reviews. It's what you would, Jack, you mentioned earlier the fact that, you know, the difference between GE and Procter. At Procter, you have many brilliant minds, but those brilliant minds are very good on strategic thinking. They impress you in business reviews because you are there, with your challenge and your issues and everything, and then they listen and they say, "Oh, this is the direction." You say, "Wow, I should have thought about it," because strategic thinking is a brilliant mind. Welch was fantastic on that, but after 1 second, Welch was fantastic on execution, on operation.
Like tactic.
He
like
was also
very
good.
Strategy and tactics. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Putting his finger on what's the issue. And he said, so he quickly told me, Bruno, because the issue was, are you going to gain major clients in every country? And so I started to pitch a bit, and then you put that on a sheet, one pager, the 4-blocker, you remember, okay? And then he
the four box model, the 4-box sheet. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the 4 box, which was, but it's great. This is for your audience.
Clarity, for clarity, exactly.
If you don't use this, learn to use it because it's great. The top, 4-blocker. The top left is describe the background. The top right is what's your proposition, what you want to do. Okay. The top left, obviously, economics. Okay, and the bottom left, economics, and the bottom right is action plan. Okay, so fantastic. And Jack would take a sheet like that you would give him. He would 30 seconds, 1 minute would be really, and then he would throw it, and he would bend in front of you with his 2 laser eyes. He would look at you in the eyes. And he would say, "Do you believe in this? How are you going to do this?" Okay. And so to me, he took my sheet, threw it, and then he looked at me and he said, "What do you need to do this? To do this fast?" So I thought for a few, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and I said what I wanted to answer. I said, it's a poker with my career here, but I'm going to do it. And I said, Jack, I need you. And then I got a kick under the table from Chuck Piper, my boss, who kicked me.
I was going to say to you, who was. So you said in the book, that somebody kicked you under the table, but you don't say who it was.
Chuck.
It was Chuck that kicked you. All right, okay, wow. Yeah. So your CEO kicked you under the table, saying, "Don't go there." Yeah, okay.
He kicked me. This crazy. Why? Why did he do that? Because I'd just been hired, executive vice president, commercial operations Europe, extremely well paid. I'm not going to tell you how much I'm earning. A pack of stock options, enormous. And the first thing I say to the CEO of the group, the first thing I say when I meet him is, "I need you." You can imagine that he could have said, "Bruno, do I really need you in that case?" So it was a risk. But Jack was this is where emotional intelligence helps also in management, because I knew Jack is an action man. And if you put him in action and with a challenge, he likes it. He loves it. Okay. So he looks at me and he said, "What do you need from me, Bruno?" And I said, "Look, Jack, if I do it, I'm going to have to enter at level 3 and then manage to go to level 2 and then eventually reach level 1, the decision maker. And it takes a while. You know that. So open me the door. You are the CEO of GE. You can open all the doors of retailers or electrical wholesalers organization or whatever you want.
Or as you say, you can open the doors of kings and queens and government presidents as well.
Exactly. Yeah. But this was, what Jack did? He turned to Paolo Fresco, who was his number 2, sitting next to him, and Paolo had the agenda of access to everyone in the world. Paolo is Italian.
He was amazing guy. Yeah,
amazing. He had a network, unbelievable network, and he was a diplomat. He was a great guy. He turned to Paolo. He said, "Paolo, get in touch with Bruno. He's going to give you a list of the targets he has, and you open the doors for him. And a few weeks later, I was on a private jet with Paolo, going to meet Conradi, CEO of Metro, and we had a meeting 20 minutes in a hotel in Düsseldorf. Paolo opened the door, and then Conradi asked a question. I answered the question. He took a piece of paper. He gave me the note. He said, "Call this guy on Monday," and he's going. And this guy was a member of the board of Metro. And a few months later, we were in business with Metro. So I told Jack, open the door. The rest I can do. I'm a sales guy. I can negotiations and everything. I can do that, but open the door. And they started to open the door. So this was also things that you learn with great managers, like great leaders like Welch. Many CEOs would have said, it's your job. Don't ask me to do your job. But Paolo was not like Jack was not like that. And I've learned so much from him, because then, of course, you say, I started to. I not started. I was already like that. But you as a leader, you should support your team. Okay, and he was walking the talk, of course. So great.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good example of being courageous, of being ballsy. Because to your point, it's double jeopardy. He could have said, "Well, you've just hired a guy on a very, very, high package reward. Yeah. Surely we're hiring him because of a certain skill set. Why can he not do that himself?" But it's leverage, isn't it? It's leverage, it's access. And as you said, once you've got the door open, you can get the foot in the door, and you can then run the sales process. So,
and Jack had the experience, and he had also the what was important for him was the objective. It was not the hierarchy or it was the objective. Reach the goals. This was what was important for him. Okay, and I was last week with someone who was trying to define for his company what the definition of leadership is, and I said, read the book of Jack Welch, because the 4 E's. You remember, Andrew, the 4 E's, for those people, the audience who don't know. Jackie was very simple we had at that time, GE had 26 businesses in the world. Each business needed to have top management, and he had a very simple, very simple way of defining the skills of the leaders he wanted to promote and to appoint to those businesses. And I kept using that for the rest of my life. He was the 4 E's. Number 1 was energy. Okay, you need to have energy, not just physical energy, like I think I have, but also intellectual energy. How quick you are to physical and intellectual energy. Then energize. How can you transmit this energy to your team so that they follow you? You okay. 2. Then 3 was edge, and he was defining edge as the capability that you have to to make tough decisions in difficult context, okay, and to really the courage, the balls to make tough decisions. And I have applied that all my life. And then he realized that he was missing a E after a while, which was execution, and we all know why, because execution is, of course, is paramount if you want to succeed. And a certain moment it was back in 2013, I think. I got a phone call, I got an SMS at 11 at night. 11 at night from a guy who used to work for me at Procter Gamble, and we were friends. And he sent me an SMS at 11 at night, and he said, "Bruno, could we talk urgently tomorrow morning, because I have a big opportunity that I want to share with you." And so I was still awake. And he sends me an SMS, means he's still awake. So I pick up the phone and I call him. And he said, "I'm in Stockholm here with the COO of a major pharmaceutical group that I joined, as you know, a year ago. And we just decided, COO just decided to fire the managing director in Italy of that company, because he has screwed up. He really screwed up, but big. Okay." And so the CEO wants a guy who is not Italian, but can speak the language, understand the culture. And I thought about you. I said, if you can get Bruno, then it's the guy you need. He's the guy you need. And so, long story short, I get in touch with the CEO. We meet, and I take the job. And I said, I take the job, but two conditions. One is give me the keys of the truck, otherwise I don't want to ask for permission to go to the
So
loop.
give you the mandate, the power. Yeah.
Mandate, also really not just on paper. Give me the mandate also daily, okay, to transform the whole thing, and to give me. I needed €1 million to clean up, because in Italy it was to manage the Italian branch, turn around the Italian branch, and in Italy, if you go through the lawyers to fire someone, it can take up to 7 years. So talking about fast transformation. So I said, give me 1 million, so I paid the guy go. Because what was the issue? In 2 words, the managing director, the CEO. I've been hired by the COO. The CEO of the group wanted to sell his group to. It was a pharmaceutical company. He wanted to sell, so he was trying to inflate the numbers, okay, to create values, artificial value. And the year before, at the end of the year, he had called every general manager of each country, and he said, "I need 10 million more from you. I need 11 million more from you, 15 million more from you." And the crazy guy in Italy before me, he loaded a distributor with 12 million goods the last week of December, and those goods they were on trucks. They stayed on track on the parking lot, and a few weeks later, they would come back to the warehouse. Okay, so this was the way the company was.
Also, you kind of like you were booking sales because they'd been goods issued, but then they were returns in the future. Oh wow!
And you give extended payment terms, so the client doesn't have to pay immediately. He loaded 12 million euros goods on the turnover of the branch, 75 million. So you see and the guy, what happens in January, the distributor went bankrupt. So the 12 million goods were blocked by the bankrupt. So they fired him, and the COO had just joined the group to clean up a bit, to organize a bit things, and so he told me, you take over, but you clean that up. You clean up the mess, and the people who think like that, behave like. So I said, yes, sir. Arrived there after a week, I realized that the management team, they were all yes men. This guy was a dictator, all yes men under yes sir, because the sales director signed the order for the 12 millions. The logistic director sent the trucks.
Oh, they were all in on the situation. Yeah.
I said, I cannot work with people like that. Okay, if I want to transform, and so I fired all of them. And my day one in the company, I took all employees, everyone, and the first thing I did was talk about values. What are the new values? And I put the values on the screen, and I said, and if you think that this is just nice talk, I had prepared a little business card format with all the values written, and everybody leaving the room, I would give one card like that. So put it in your wallet and make sure you read it really, because I'm going to walk the talk. Okay? So just and then I joined the company in September. Of course, I cleaned up. It was not my year. Joining in September, you clean up all the mess of your predecessor, because after it becomes your year. And so I started to clean up. And just an example, the company was paying 200,000 euros a year just for warehousing cost for obsolete goods. When you sell drugs, when they are obsolete, you can't.
Yeah, they're out of date. You can't sell them. Basically, they're obsolete stock.
Yeah, warehousing obsolete goods was 200,000 euros a year. But nobody before wanted to clean up, because it would be negative sales, so it would deflate your turnover. So nobody had the courage to do that. So I clean up and everything, and then I sent my budget for the year. Next year would be my year, okay? And I put a profit. After cleaning up and everything, the real profit was 3 million euros on the real profit. And my business plan for my budget for the next year, I put 11 million profit, true profit. And third week of Jan, I got a phone call from the CEO, so the boss of my boss, and he said, what the hell is this, Bruno? I saw your fucking budget. You are putting only 11 million profit this year. And the CEO is telling me that we hired a super duper manager coming for Procter GE, and he's going to deliver the fucking 11 million profit. You know what I want from you? 20 million. Okay. And, I told him, Mike, if I would be a young kid, I might tell you, yes, you can count on me. I'll do my best. But I'm not a young kid anymore. And I'm going to tell you, if you put 20 million in your budget for Italy, your corporate budget for Italy, you have a fucking problem. And boom, I put the phone back. He never called me back. He never called me back. And I delivered 12 million. Okay, this is courage. Okay.
Well, no,
yeah.
he never called you back.
No, he never called me back. I met him in the, in meetings and all that, but
he never raised the topic again, basically.
So he probably what he did, he raised the bar with all my colleagues around Europe who accepted that. I don't know, but it's
no. But what I found interesting with your stories as well is that there's probably three stories that kind of resonate. There's two that are related to you, and then there's one related to the guy at MasterCard around new technology and the blockchain stuff and the crypto stuff. Yeah. Massimo, is it? Yeah. But the two. Yeah, no, I've read the book. But there's two stories which I'd love you to share. Is the one about you got to share about Farmer Jack, about Bob at Farmer Jack, because the thing about the dynamic between seller and buyer, right? The power.
Yes.
Is the power within the seller's hands? Is the power within the buyer's hands? How do you manage that dynamic?
Yes.
So, if you could share that story, just a little insight into that, just to tease people to want to read your book, because it's just such a you could create a movie out of your book. But could you share that Bob story initially, because it's just I can relate to it so much. It's just great.
So the Farmer Jack story. Everything started with there I am, 30, 31, I think 21, 32 years old. And as I mentioned earlier, Procter sent me to the US, because at the time was Procter, La Mecca in the US, where Cincinnati, where everything started. And so there I am, and I'm assigned. I was at the beginning. You arrive in Cincinnati. Nobody needs you. And just before I arrived to Farmer Jack, and my first day, I remember Cincinnati, Procter, two big giant towers, and they are elevators. In the morning, you have hundreds and hundreds of people in the elevator going to their desk. And I remember the first day, I entered the elevator, and I watched. Everybody was looking at me, from my shoes to my head. But I noticed, of course, that I was dressed a bit differently, because there at that time, I'm talking about the 85, all the P&G guys, they were all dressed with suits, dark gray with the white line, and a tie was Bordeaux or dark blue. Everyone, and dark and black shoes, everyone. And I was
so it's like a uniform. It's like a uniform.
Yeah, uniform. And I was there with Prince de Galles. I don't know if you understand. Prince de Galles, it was a double breast, very elegant double breast with with the gray, and my shoes leather color. And there I am in the elevator, so everybody was looking at me. And then after 3 days, my boss calls me and he said, Bruno, to tell you one thing, you are very elegant, you are a nice guy, but you should change your wardrobe, because the feedback I get is they tell me this guy he's dressed to play golf. I said, come on. I never changed. I said, I'm different. This is good. Okay. And this,
but you see, you could say you were flying the flag of European fashion. Yeah. You were far more fashionable and stylish. Yeah. You can't admit, you're kind of like Belgian stroke French stroke Italian, right? So you cannot turn up and not be stylish. I mean, come on, that's impossible.
Of course. So I never changed. I stayed like that. But okay, so I was pushing every day to get a line job so that I could get measured and demonstrate that I was okay. And so I was pushing my boss every day. And one day he called me. He said, "You have to go to see the sales director of the beverage division." I go and see him, and I come back from there, and the new colleagues I met there said, "So what?" I said, "Oh, I am appointed regional sales director for Midwest for the beverage division, based in Detroit." And they looked at each other. They said, "Bruno, but what did you do to the company to be sent to Detroit in '85?" I'll tell you, Detroit was another gift. And the beverage division, Procter sold everything in the beverage. Now they are not, so it was really not the best place to be. But they sent me there. Okay, so I arrived there, and the first day I meet with my boss, who was a division manager. So the guy was in charge of a larger territory in the same division, and Jack Harms. And Jack Harms had been in the job I was taken from him for 12 years. Okay. And so he was the worst thing which can happen to you. Your boss has spent 12 years in your job, so he knows everything inside out, and he tells you what to do. And okay, anyway. So he tells me about business reviews, people review, and everything. And then he said, at Procter, as you know very well, the sales director, regional sales director, needs to take one personal account. He should, put his hand in the. Yeah, of course, I like that. I like that. I will do it. And he said, so me for 12 years, I have had Farmer Jack. Farmer Jack was a chain of about 80 supermarkets in Detroit. And he said, I handled Farmer Jack, but you are not going to take Farmer Jack. He said, you are going to take Kroger. I said, why? And he said, you take Kroger because Farmer Jack is too difficult for you. I said, too difficult for me? And he said, yeah, because, those guys, they will eat you alive. They will eat you alive. And I said, why? He said, because your English is so, one, and two, you don't know the beverage business. It was coffee and fruit juice. You don't know the coffee business at all. And there is a dynamic of coffee market business and all that. You don't know. And those guys, they are really, they are uneducated. They are, aggressive, brutal. You are not going to survive there, Bruno. Okay, so don't take that, and you take Krug. And I say, who is going to handle Farmer Jack? And he said, give Farmer Jack to Bill. Bill is your best unit manager. Bill is great. He's going to be able to. So I said, but Jack and Bill, how is Bill going to react to that? Because I arrive here from Belgium, nobody's expecting me, and the first thing this Belgian leader does, he said, no, too difficult for me, you give it to Bill. And probably Bill was pretending to get my job now. He said, yeah, Bill was. But Bill, on people management, he's not very good, and he's a good key account manager. But so give it to Bill, and that way, and you take her. So in my book, I tell the story, and then I what I like in the book, what I wanted to do in the book is to make it interactive. So the target are young leaders, parentheses now. So I stopped there and I said to the young reader, what should you have done?
You kind of pause, don't you? And you pose a question, and then you get people people to fill out what they would do, and then you explain what you would do. Yeah.
And why? Now and then I tell the case, and then I ask the reader to reflect and come back and take away, blah blah blah. But what I did, I said, Jack, is that your definition of leadership? And he said, yeah, you are a leader and you decide, you are the boss, and you decide that Bill is going to take Farmer Jack and you take Kroger. You are the boss. And I said, so this is your definition of leadership? He said, yes. And I said, this is not mine. I'm sorry. If I want to be credible with the team and be respected, the first thing I should do, I should take Farmer Jack. Okay. And they will all say, wow, this guy takes Farmer Jack. Wow. Okay. And succeed. And he said, yeah, but Bruno, it's mission impossible. Within 3 months, they ask for replacement. I guarantee, even less. They ask for replacement. And don't do that. So I said, Jack, I'll tell you, I don't agree with this. And I decided, I take Farmer Jack. And he said, Bruno, I'm your boss, and I have decided you don't take Farmer Jack. I said, okay. In that case, you know what you do? There was no email at that time. No, okay. You send a letter to the president of Europe to tell him that Bruno has refused the assignment because he feels he's not in, he's not in a position to succeed. and he wants to fly back to Europe. But I tell you, in Europe, I'm a fast track. I'm considered as the next European
like
vice president.
high potential. Yeah, exactly.
So okay, you do what you want. And then he became, violent, and he said, take Farmer Jack, you will regret it, and but I'm not going to support you. Okay, fine. Okay. 4 months later, so I take Farmer Jack, and then my first appointment, he never came with me, of course, to Farmer Jack because he was really. So my first appointment, there was a process there which you were new. You had to meet the VP purchase. It was a must. So the guy was Bob Garbarino. Bob Garbarino was probably 100, if not 150 kilos. I don't know in pounds how much it is, but it's big. I'll tell you, it's really big. Okay, this guy, he was a pig. Really, he was the behavior, the way he was. His hobby was raising raccoons. Okay, so I'll tell you what it gives you an idea. So Bob Garbarino. And so I managed to have an appointment. First, to have the appointment, not easy, but the trick in the US at that time with the assistant of Bob Garbarino, you take your best French accent and you say, I'm Bruno Goffin, we'd like to have an appointment with Bob because I want to be introduced. And you see the eyes of the French lover at that time. I don't know how it is, but okay. So I got my appointment, and then I arrived that morning in Bob Garbarino's office. Talk, talk. I enter. He's there. He's there with writing some. He doesn't even look at me. Then he looks up, and I said, "Bob, good morning. I'm Bruno Goffin, the new. At the time, my English was the regional director, beverage division of Procter and Gamble." So he looked at me like that, and he said, "What the fuck is this? The fucking Procter and Gamble is sending this guy who is not even to speak English. What the fuck is that?" And every 3 seconds, he was using fuck. So I said, I need to. And this guy, he tries to impress me. Of course, you don't need to be, a psychologist to understand. And so I say, oh man, how can I play? So I looked at him very surprised, and I said, Bob, I'm sorry, but there is one word that you are using that I've not learned at school in English. He says, fuck. How do you write this? Because I'm going to, and he become even more, more aggressive and more. He said, "Get out of here! Get your fucking." Yeah. And I said, on the door, I said, "Bob, I promise I'm going to study and understand the word, and when I have understood, I come back to you." And I left. That objective reached. The guy thought he could destabilize me. He sees no grasp on this guy. And so this is how everything started. The end of the story is that 4 months later, I had managed to introduce key SKUs that my boss never managed to do. And after less than 1 year, the business at Farmer Jack was 25% up. Okay, so it's an example of courage, of challenge, of this is the stories in the book.
No, but it's the way. Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that, because when I first read that the other day, I was thinking, oh my God, because you even say, I'm going to put my best French accent on. It's just like absolutely brilliant.
The story of Massimo. And this one is interesting because for the readers of the book, because Massimo is an Italian guy. He's a friend of my son. He's 33. And this guy is such a great leader, a business leader. Massimo, he works for MasterCard. And 2 years ago, MasterCard was struggling with the bitcoins, all this artificial money and all that. And they had put some traditional 45, 50 years old people, managers of MasterCard, trying to sort that out. What should we do with this? What shouldn't we do with this? And the project was going nowhere. And Massimo, a young guy, he had some pretty good ideas of what to do. Okay, and so he went to his boss and he said, on crypto money, I have a plan. And his boss said, "What's your plan, Massimo?" And he said, "What I want to recruit. I want to organize a 1 week workshop 1 week workshop with the best talent in the world on crypto money. And I want to brainstorm with them for MasterCard and say, how should we tackle that? And this boss said, "Whoa, yeah, sounds ambitious. Are you going to manage to get them?" And okay. And he said, "I have a plan. I just need half a million euros and to organize the 1 week session." This boss said, "But Massimo, what did you smoke? You didn't read the fact that we are cutting costs and traveling and everything." And he said, no. But I want to do 1 week in the Bahamas. I don't remember which island it was, but it's in the book. 1 week with them, and I promise we are going." And this boss said, "But we have plenty of offices in everywhere in Europe. We have offices in Europe everywhere." And Massimo said, "Because you think that the best talent in the world would come to Poland for a meeting of a week like that in the winter? You think I will manage to get them?" Long story short, he went to the boss of his boss, blah blah blah. At the end, Massimo got his $500,000 in a moment of cost cutting. He got his $500,000 euros budget. He managed to get all those gurus of crypto money of the world closed in a fantastic place, a resort and all that. And at the end of the week, they had a plan. They had a plan because Massimo is a very concrete guy. Okay, and so they had a plan how to tackle crypto. And so he came back. He presented the plan. All the bosses of MasterCard in Europe were wow. Massimo got the budget to create that, and now he's leading a team of 50 people who are handling cryptos, and MasterCard is in crypto. The guy he's 33, okay, but he has balls. He has, and in my book, you have seen also what I've tried. I call this creative courage. Okay, intellectual courage, creative courage. Because in the book, the book is made of 30 anecdotes. 20 are challenges that I had to go through. Okay, I went through those challenges and I described them, as we said. I asked the reader to reflect, and then I explained the case, and I asked the reader to what's the takeaway. Okay. But 20 are my stories, and then I asked 10 people of my network that I think have stories to tell to also contribute. Massimo is one of them, and but then to make it a guide for the young reader, to make it a guide, I created a simple model because on the literature on leadership is many, and on courage there is a bit.
I think what you point out, it's quite fragmented, isn't it? It's like a jigsaw puzzle. It's all over the place, isn't it?
Boxes, a model. The 5 pillars of courageous leadership. 5 pillars are: pillar number 1, authenticity. Authenticity is you have your own values, you have your own values, you have your own principles. Stick to that. No compromise on your own values. Okay. Then the number 2 is self-discipline. Walk the talk. Okay. This is also okay. Then the other one is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is very important for young people. Is self-awareness, knowing yourself, and play on your skills, knowing your skills and play on your skills. Okay, and then also what's your motivation and how to adapt your approach to the people in front of you. Then resilience, of course. Resilience is obvious, and you see the guy that I have behind me here. You recognize certainly the portrait from behind me.
Nelson Mandela. Is that Nelson Mandela?
Yeah. To me, he's a model of resilience because he for I think 27 years he was closed in prison. He never changed.
Yeah, he was incarcerated, wasn't he? Yeah, for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So resilience, and then commitment to purpose. It should become your mission. Okay. And then the type of courage. It was interesting because when I studied all that, I realized I've learned myself also, like the intellectual courage. Intellectual courage is knowing what to do, how to do it, and why. Then the moral courage, which is be able to distinguish what is right and what is wrong. Okay, and even in tough situation, stay with the right. Okay, with the right thing. Then creative courage. The case of Massimo here is a lateral thinking. Is go and don't continue to do the same thing, but change the game. Okay. Then you have biological courage. Biological courage is something where you have less influence, but like Massimo, he has guts. He was born with guts. Okay. And some people have, some don't. I have a brother. He was raised like me. He was born in January. I was born in December, same year. He likes mechanics, and he spent all his life with his hands in the engine. But this is what he wanted. But biological courage was different, mine and his. And then followers' courage. And followers' courage is important for young people today, because followers' courage is be an independent, critical person, and dare to go out of the scope of your job to step up and say what you want to say. Okay, and this is something I discovered also. And so the my anecdotes I put in the boxes so that it can become a guide for the reader, because based on my experience, I've trained many people, and I know that theory on the moment people say, wow, interesting, great, very good, but they don't remember it. After 6 months, they forget. While an anecdote, they remember. I remember I was in Sicily, deep Sicily. I trained 600 medical reps at the Abbott Pharmaceutical, great American company. They asked me to train them on communicate to convince, and so I did that. And I had plenty of anecdotes in my training. And 3 years later, after the training, I was in Sicily, getting out of a restaurant with my family on the trip. And in a small village on the street, I hear, "Hey, Bruno, come stai?" In Italian, "Come stai, contenti di vedere." I look and say, I know this guy, but where? Okay. And he came and said, "You remember the training? The training you give us on the communicate to convince. I apply every day the story, this story, this story." He remembered the story. He did not remember the theory. So this is why I decided to write this book with stories and not okay. And on followers' courage, to come back on this, I discovered because one of the person that decided to contribute to the book with her anecdote is Daniela Cerboni. She's a lady. She has a global management responsibility at American Express. For a lady in a man environment, she is really a great leader. And she showed me, and you find that in the book, that she said that at American Express, the annual evaluation, the young talent, they are evaluated on their followers' courage. Are they able to stand up and say, I don't agree with this, even if it's out of their scope? If one of the top management says something,
so like constructive challenge. Is that what you call it? Is that right?
Yeah. And for young people, this is great, because also when you read Gen Z, what they want, in all my research, because I made intensive research on the young talent, on HR and CEOs, on the web, and when I see, but I have some verbatim. I had some verbatim here somewhere, but I remember, the young manager, the Gen Z, they know what they want. They want it now. They have values and principles, and they don't want to compromise on their values and principles. And for example, I was recently with a guy who became a friend. At 15 years old, he left school, and he's a French guy. He left school, and he went in a restaurant washing dishes, like I did also when I was young. And now this is how he started. Then he created one restaurant, and now he owns 45 hotels and restaurants in France. Okay, and talking to him, he said, "But sometimes I see young talent coming, and for us, we recruit, and we need talent to run our operations. And sometimes I see great talents. We offer them the job with a generous pay, because we say we want this guy, and then they say, 'No, I'm not doing the job.' And you say, 'Why?' And then those guys said, 'No, because you are not doing anything regarding the environment. You keep polluting with your, you don't have a plan to reduce energy or whatever.' And I tell them, 'Guys, come, join us. I don't know how to do it. Come, join us, and I'm going to give you the responsibility and the money and the budget to do it, to transform my company. I need people like you.' And he said, 'Some people cannot come, and I call them spectators of their destiny.' Okay, but the courageous young leader today, they should love a job like this. And what I say in my book is that if you are a young talent look for companies like the American Express or this guy here, and join those companies, because you will have an impact. They will give you the chance to have an impact. Okay.
But you see, what you're raising there is about not being silent, yeah,
Yeah.
and also being brave enough and courageous enough to actually give that feedback, and then grabbing something and then owning it, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's always, I think, the stuff that you've written about is a good a really good wake up call, because I think it's very empathetic about understanding the difference in that when people grew up before, to your story, about my story, is that your parents, you either followed your parents' plan, or you
Yeah.
went into a corporate job. But the point you make in the book as well about the Gen Z, the millennials, there's no loyalty there, yeah. But also the point is that they also know what they don't want, yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
so it
Yes.
becomes, I mean, I've come across people over the last 10 years where the managers of today also are struggling to manage these people, this genre, this set of
Yes.
this
Yes.
age range, because they haven't worked out what is the thing that makes them tick, yeah, and they're not investing in that conversation to help them to light the fire to them, for
Yeah.
them to be loyal and to actually grab the
Yes.
nettle and
Yes.
do something about it. So I think it's incredibly valuable what you're doing here. It's kind of, it's how you get the message out there even more, which is obviously why I wanted you, not only just connecting because we used to be GE alumni, but just actually getting this message out there that there's a really good playbook here, I think, of stories. Because as you said, that if you just have a generic model and no stories, but like your example from
Sure.
Sicily, people remember the stories. Yeah, they don't
Only,
forget. If the stories are so great, they'll never forget the
sure.
stories. They make brilliant contact.
But because, Andrew, when I was younger, like when you were young, if you were ambitious, and if you had, I was ambitious, and as I explained the why I wanted to get out of this environment where I grew up, and but the model existed. To be successful, what I wanted was, let's be straight. I wanted a big house, nice house, and 10 years later a bigger one, a nicer one. I wanted a big BMW. I wanted, raise my kids. Maybe not. You wanted a collection car. I don't know, but something. But the model existed. Procter, after 5 years, if you do well, you were there. 10 years, you were there. 15 years, you were there. People retire and argue at Procter. Okay, and now this is over. Doesn't exist anymore. This model is to be constantly reinvented. And if you are a young guy, talent, ambitious, and courageous, I say you need to be more courageous than I was, because the context is far more complicated. And think about it. You have a job today, and tomorrow your boss calls you and say, we are replacing you with AI. And you say, oh, okay, fine, okay, AI. So you say, I don't care. I'm going to move. And but if you are not courageous, you are lost. You are lost, because at my time, you were enter at Procter here. After that, the next job was this one, the next this one, this one,
Yeah,
this one.
you could
Today,
plot your course. You could plot your course. Yeah.
so it was, you needed to be courageous in a kind of, in a frame, in a comfortable environment. Why now? You are courageous, but and when you hear the verbatim, I have some verbatim here of those. But or mentioned that earlier in this conversation. But those guys, they say you work hard. I saw my parents. They work hard, and they got, at the end. What the result was? The result was a burnout. The result was my dad at 45 he was fired, and so so you need to recreate the dream. You need to recreate the passion. You need the self confidence. And so if you want to summarize all this, and what would be my advice for young leaders today who are ambitious? I would say, first of all, write that in your bedroom in front of you on an A4 sheet. Manage your own destiny, or somebody else will. This is a number one thing. Okay, if you don't manage your own destiny, you will not get there. Somebody will manage it for you. Okay, so manage your own destiny. One, two. Uh, two is know yourself, know your skills, know what motivates you, know what you are good at. And so I have great model that I mentioned in my book and on my website, and all that, the process communication model. It allows you to know yourself, self-awareness, what I'm, who I am, what I'm good at, and then manage yourself, play on your skills, know what motivates you, know when you are in stress, negative stress, you know why, and you know how to get out of it. And you also learn that people are different than you, and you learn how to see the different, and you adapt your approach. This is the number two big advice for young leaders. Three, read my book, because it should be an electrical shock. What I want is make it an electrical shock. Those guys, they should read the book. This book, this is an electrical shock. It should be. This is my objective. It's not to sell the book, because I'm in a give back. My objective is make sure that they read the book. Okay, and three, take a mentor, because the statistics that also I mentioned. The statistics are 100% of Fortune 50 companies have internal mentoring program. So it means 97 of young managers having a mentor, they think it's added value. 97. I'm not saying it. Forbes says that. It's a research that I saw on Forbes. 97 say that it's very useful. And then people with a mentor, 5 times more promotion and salary increase. They get 5 times more chance of having a promotion or salary increase. So those are my three or four pieces of advice for young leaders today, because some people are negative, and so young people also are negative and all that. You have so many opportunities around, with so many, and if you don't find it in big companies, you have not found. Create your own company, and change the world with your own company.
Well, no, I mean I mean, I think those are great takeaways, but also I think that point, because the world of work has changed, or the future of work is changing, and you point in your book, you could join a company like P&G, like GE, and stay there for your whole life, yeah. But now that
doesn't exist
it doesn't,
anymore.
exactly, it doesn't exist anymore. So that's that thing. You've got to find your tribe, yeah. And then if you don't find your tribe, is then go and create your own tribe, and then show leadership to create followers to build your new business. So you do have choices.
You have read the preface of the preface, you say in English, the preface, yes, of the book,
yeah,
written by my son, 33,
mm-hmm.
and so Pierre Olivier, my son, he is in his blood, in his DNA, he's an entrepreneur. So he decided first. He worked for several startup, scale-up companies. He learned mistakes, blah, 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 blah. He invested a bit. He just brought me in. I invested 30,000 euros in one of those companies, and for bankrupt. Okay, anyway, he learned, which was the objective. He learned, and then I told him, you do what you want. I'm not going, but my advice would be go and spend 3-5 years in a company where you get, where you get shaped, where you learn all the basics. And this is what I did. I spent 18 years at Procter. You don't have to spend 18 years. After 3-5 years, the juice I got. Okay. So he decided, but he went to Accenture, great company, already to get in. It's not easy. They hired him. He spent 5 years at Accenture, did well, very, very well. And then he quit, and he said, now I'm going to create my startup company. And he started to work. The issue is that he had 2 associates who were lousy people, and so it didn't work. Fine. And then he joined a scale-up company. Now he's in a scale-up, which the product exists. They have big clients in Italy, and they want to export. And he's in charge of developing the business in France for the French, for the territory. And they are consultant in digital transformation for all type of companies. And so he's the business developer for France, based on what he had learned also at Accenture and all that. And so then he still has the idea of creating his own company. So he's in parallel, he's working on on his business model, and great, and he will create his own company, I'm sure. But this is what I would recommend to young talent: say, make mistakes and learn from your mistakes. Otherwise, you always think, okay, make your mistakes, then join for 3-5 years. Join a blue chip where you are going to be formatted the DNA. You learn the best practice, the models, and how to pitch and all that. And then, what the fuck, you leave and you go and you create your own company, because also you have some more seniority, you have learned, and you are more credible on the market, and blah blah blah. And so this is what I would advise also young people to do. And if you read the preface of my book, you see my son is saying, Dad, all the stories you have in the book, because he pushed me to write the book, and he said all the stories in the book when I was 16, 18, 20, 25, you were telling those stories. And when I had my friends coming, I would also push you. I said, Dad, tell the story about the Farmer Jack story. Okay, all those things. And he said, at that time, I thought they were nice stories. But now that I'm 33 and I'm working, I think this is great mentoring.
Yeah, they're really dynamite. They're absolutely dynamite, those stories. That's the thing. Yeah.
He pushed me to write the book. He said, so Dad, write it. And I said, but I don't want to write a biography, because the biography, a bio is a bit narcissistic. It's a bit. So I said I would prefer to make it something actionable for young people. And this is how I ended up with this book, and offering also a mentoring session. If a young guy wants to goes on my website, he get free tools and all that, and then he can book a one-to-one with me, and so this is it.
Fantastic. Well, no, I was just going to say to finish off was, I mean, thank you very much gratitude for coming on today's show. And I suppose the question is if people want to find more about this PCM stuff, find out about this stuff, learn more of the stories. Yes. What's the best way of finding the work you've done?
Okay, the best way is to go on my website, because there you have everything. You have all the links to buy the book, get the free brochures, book a section, and join the community on LinkedIn. So it's www.courageousyoungleaders.com. Simple. courageousyoungleaders.com. Go there. And you have it all. It's in English. You have it all.
Fantastic.
courageousyoungleaders.com.
And obviously you're on LinkedIn as well. So obviously Bruno Goffin on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Also, you can also go through me, Bruno Goffin, and then there visit my website, and you.
No. So I mean, all I can say is much gratitude, and obviously when I'm down in Cannes next year, I'm gonna have to come and get whooped by you at golf.
Yeah. Hey, if you. Nice is the airport.
I know it's not far. No, it's not far. Yeah, I was in Monte Carlo. I was in Monte Carlo last year, but obviously I didn't realize you were in Cannes. But
this is 20 minutes from where I live, and if you go on the internet, you look at Royal Mougins Golf Club. It's one of the top in the south. It's tough. It's a tough course, but it's beautiful.
I'll bring lots of balls. So when I lose all the balls. Where is Andrew's balls gone? No, thank you.
No, you need a courageous player to play there, because it's tough.
Yes. You've got to have lots of balls, and you've got to have balls to play it there as well. Yeah. Okay, so thank you, Bruno. That was Bruno Goffin, author, best-selling author now, as well as your other accolades, and fantastic to spend time with you. Thank you so much. And that was Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. And look forward to publishing this episode very soon, and see you on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Bye.